Hi, it's Dawn. Welcome back. I am working today on another page in my notebook. This is what size is this? 9 by 12. Big old thing. And once again, I'm pulling out stencils. This is the one that I pulled out today, and obviously it doesn't fit, so I made it off center on purpose. And I rather like that. But I just wanted to mention that if your stencils aren't the right size, like let's say you've got some small ones like this, I mean, you can still use them and just reposition them and fill your page. And I've just got a stack of them sitting here to the side of, and these stencil, this one I'm using today, I have no idea where I got it. It's by a company called Hello Hobby. And it could have been Hobby Lobby, it could have been Ollie's, it could have been Michael's. I just couldn't tell you. I pick things up when I see them just because I like the look of them, and then I stick them in my stencil stash. But I've got different sizes, you know, and they're all going to be used eventually. And I'll get this one. I'm excited to do. I may do that one next. This is by Ranger, and these by Tim are also from Stampers Anonymous, and I just like them. They just give you something to, it's like you make your own version of an adult coloring book. But today's color, I thought with a new color I ought to try. This is I was debating between these three actually. Quin Gold, which is, you know, my all-time favorite. Hematite Burnt Scarlet Genuine, which is a Primatech, which is a granulating, and then Prussian Green. I think I'm going to go with the Hematite Burnt Scarlet Genuine. And then I have a new, isn't she cute? I love her. I'm not sure how practical she's going to be, but I just think she's fun. So I don't know how Primatech's going to work in some of these, because, you know, Primatech typically is very granulating, and sometimes you get really wonky. Ooh, she's thick. She's a thick girl. I'm just going to squeeze out a fresh tube, which is always going to give you, wow. Didn't mean to squeeze out that much, but here we are. And then I'm using a really small brush. This one's a number 5, but that's like jeans. It's not saying much when you say what size it is, but it's just a fairly small brush, because a lot of this is quite intricate. And yep. So I'm going to try to keep the camera down a bit closer, and I'll probably start in the middle and work my way out. And just do it. And I expected this to be, I know it's burnt scarlet. I know burnt means it's going to be a lot different color than scarlet, but this is looking really brown. I'm going to water this down so I don't have super pigmentation here. And I do not roll back my pencil lines. You can take a kneaded eraser and do that, if that makes you happy. I kind of like, I used to try to erase my pencil lines, and it doesn't bother me. I kind of like them. And of course you can freehand anything you want too. This is not watercolor paper. I think this is mixed media paper, but because I'm not doing a lot of scrubbing or multiple layers, this is absolutely fine. You know what? Now that I said that, now I want to look. So I'm going to pull this out of the shop for a second and see. Nope, it is watercolor paper. Just kidding. I lied. But the point is, it's not good watercolor paper. I think is kind of where I was going with that. And it doesn't have to be if you're not going to be going like over it a lot. Or, you know, like scrubbing it to like lift color, or doing a lot of glazes. I was doing some other stuff this past week, and I use a cheap watercolor book from Five and Below to like prime paint pens and scrub off my watercolor extras, and then I like chop that stuff up and use it for other things. But anyway, I was trying to get this one acrylic marker to get started, and I was just, you know, banging it on the paper and really kind of going at it with trying to get it primed, to get the paint to start flowing. And finally it started flowing, and I started scribbling it back and forth just a little bit, wasn't even a lot. And boy, that paper just started rolling up on me. And I'm like, yep, that's why we don't use that for our regular stuff. That's why we only use it for one-offs, or when you're not going to manipulate the paper a lot. A lot of color or a lot of water. A lot of water will do it. It just rolled up. Because it's a scratch pad, I don't care, obviously. But it just is a gentle reminder of what we don't want to do. If we're doing a piece that we want to gift or have it turn out well. Well, this is super brown, isn't it? Of course, I know I'm using full strength, and a lot of these petals are tiny. They're tiny. Burnt scarlet, hematite burnt scarlet. I was going to look and see what the pigment number is on it. Genuine hematite with gum arabic. You can't see that, can you? Oh, never mind. Yeah, hear me now, believe me later. It kind of gives a little bit of a purpley brown feel to it. I'm not sure if the camera's picking that up, but that's the scarlet, I'm sure. And some stencils, like this one, are extremely fiddly. Finicky. What's the word I'm looking for? You gotta do a lot of finessing to make them look good because of their shape. This is a mandala, of course. And this may not be the best stencil to do this kind of project with, but I'm always trying to make my muscle memory excuse me, trying to improve my muscle memory and my my ability to do little things. And yeah, I'm choked way up on the ferrule on this. But the tininess of the pattern kind of dictates that. And of course, you can always go about it in a very haphazard kind of way, and a less is more, or, you know, close enough kind of approach. Less precise, I mean, because, you know, the thing about watercolor that's so pretty to me at times is how it just doesn't paint. It ignores the rules. It goes, I see your rules, and I ignore them. I reject them. I reject them. See, that's too watery for my liking, but that's too pigmented, so yeah. When you're using fresh out of the tube paints, it does take a little bit of time to kind of find that happy middle ground where you're getting enough pigment to water. Not that I'm any expert, but that's just my experience. See, that's too much pigment right there. But hopefully I can spread it out. I got enough big enough space that I can strategically manage that. Well, this would be a good color if you want, you know, if you're looking for a cool brown in your palette. One day soon, I want to challenge myself and do a limited palette. Like, there's this one creator I follow, and I couldn't tell you his name, and he will use, let's see, he'll pull out ochre, but he'll pull out ochre by every manufacturer. So he'll have like 8 ochres. And then he will do a portrait with all 8 ochres. And obviously some ochres are lighter than others, and so as he's going along, he kind of ranks them and puts them in order, and then he does his portrait with all these ochres, and it's like, wow, that limited palette is the range in it sometimes is crazy, because the different manufacturers, even though they use the same pigments often, there's a difference there. All right, I want to pull some of that off of that one. Pull back a little bit of that one. I can start to see the granulation here on the ones that have already dried or are drying down. Let's try doing a rainbow. I'm not sure I'm going to like these rainbows very much. In fact, when I was tracing the stencil, I thought, man, these are a lot of arcs. Yeah, a lot of arcs. Oh well, what you gonna do? Do a few and then come back and do others. I like the teardrop shapes. Those seem fun to paint. My hand likes it. This would have been fun in blue, like a chinoiserie type pattern blue situation, but I had these new paints sitting on my table, and I'm like, nope. We're gonna use these. So here we are. Wow, that's just so much pigment. That's so much water by contrast. Yuck. I like the happy medium. Wow, that's really Van Dyke brownie. I want you to see this one, so I'm going to lift it up ever so slightly so maybe the camera can stay focused. This guy right here, he's starting to have some like purple and gray, or what is that? I cannot get that to focus. Oh, okay, never mind. It's very interesting. All right, let's go do a rainbow up here, maybe. It's wild how the range of this, I know it's granulating, so it's going to have different colors, but it's wild to me how some of these are very warm. Like this is very warm, but then these are very cool. I'm going to kind of mix this up a little bit and see if I can get a little more consistent color. Right. Did you hear yourself? Consistent color with a granulating. Yeah. Okay. I'm a much bigger fan of this cooler brown than I am warmer browns. Not always, but usually I tend to gravitate towards a cooler brown. See, that's just too warm for me. I'm going to go in here and fix that. I mean, some variation is nice, but it looks like baby poop. Oh, that teardrop was satisfying. Okay, least favorite thing to paint so far. These rainbow arcs. These arches. I mean, they're not terrible, but they're not my fave. Remind me I said that when I get to this to this one. These funky little... These remind me of peacock feathers. See, look at that brown. Look at that. You know what? I think it probably sinks to the bottom, and that's what comes to the top. If I'm just taking a little bit off the top, that's the color I'm getting. Yep. So it looks like the scarlet part. Or it could be the hematite. I don't know. As it's sitting in your little palette, it looks like the scarlet part of this pigment is heavier and it drops to the bottom. And if you're just pulling off the top, you're getting that. Van Dyke brown's a cool brown too. You're getting that warmer brown color, whatever that color is. So you're almost required to stir up your puddle of paint when you go back to it each time. Interesting. Good to know. But I do like it. I love brown. I was hoping this would be a bit more red than it is, but that's okay. That's why we do these exercises, so we can get familiar with the paint. But I do like a cooler brown, personally. You know, people love those really warm, rich browns. Not me. I like the cool ones. But you do you. Your mileage may vary. You may love that warm aspect. If that's the case, this is probably not the brown for you. And I like the fact that you don't expect brown in a mandala. I mean, you usually expect, you know, very vibrant colors, pinks and purples, and I went outside the line. Whoopsie. And yellows and, you know, the like. But kind of a muddy brown. Very unexpected. In a mandala. Teardrops are some of my favorites. So this is one of the things that I think of all the time is I'm always afraid to use my good paper. Not afraid. It's just you pay so much for the good stuff. So go to 5 and below, get the cheapy stuff. Get the cheapy stuff from Walmart if you don't have a 5 and below. And do this. You don't really have to tape it down, although you could. Because it's you're not putting that much water on it, hopefully. Even if you are, who cares? Just get out your paints and play. You might make something, you might accidentally make something cool. Okay, I got 2 more arcs here, and then I got to go into Arc City. I was thinking before I started this how I wanted to go about it so that I didn't like reach across the paint. Do I want to work outside in, inside out? Obviously I'm working inside out. Wow, that's very dark. But that's fine. We're just going to keep add a little more water to this. Here we go, last arc for this row. All right. Now let's go up here. These little shallow petals are a little challenging. Those first ones are as well because it's almost the exact same size as your brush, you know. Ooh, that's too much. So you really have to use the tip to be able to fill it in without making it all fat and globular. I'm not real sure what I'm going to do when I get to the edge over here because I'm going to have to be mindful of the fact that it's going to go off the paper and, you know, where do I want to stop? Maybe tape would have been helpful there. I don't know. I'm just going to decide that when I get there. Right now I'm just working off of the complete pieces. Well, that gets quite dark, doesn't it? I rather like it. So when I'm like refinishing furniture and doing stuff with stain, I always pick up walnut. I love it. It's my staining frames or whatever it is I'm doing. I love walnut because of that gray brown feel to it, the cool brown. This is giving walnut vibes at times. And yet it's not totally gray. It still has a little bit of warmth in it. Okay, I am not a fan of these little horseshoe rainbow arcs at all. I'm just going to go on record. But I love the overall pattern, so we're putting up with that part. And that's my least favorite part, right? Kind of cool. Kind of unexpected on a white page to have so much brown, but I can live with it. Okay. Oopsie. Went outside the lines. Give yourself permission. It's a lot of pigment. Ooh. Sloppy. I'm sloppy. That's the joy of watercolor, though, I think. And it is for me, anyway. It's not expected to be photorealism or... Well, I mean, there's artists out there that just do an extraordinary job with watercolor. I am not sure I would ever want to be in that realm. It's not my... I'm much more primitive. I say primitive from like a decor standpoint, you know, like homespun, and that's my jam. Goodness. Let's dump some of that out. Let me go ahead and try to paint some of these over here. Just see what this looks like. Well, I know what it looks like, but just to see how it feels to paint this shape. I like the bigger spaces better for sure. Oopsie. Sometimes you go along and your brush just kind of jumps. There's nothing in the paper that makes it jump. It's just, I don't know, your muscle twitches, the brush pressure, the bristles give way. I don't know. I'm sure if I went slower and really concentrated, I could probably eliminate some of that, but here we are. Yeah, I like these bigger shapes better. In the perfect world, I'd be having this turned around and varying the direction of the pattern just to have a more comfortable paint position on my hand, but when you're this close, it's really hard to do that and still maintain a good, I don't know, a good video, good shot. So I take breaks and let it dry and give my wrist a little bit of a break. Seems to create a happy medium in that way. No, I'm just getting just off camera here, so I'll move around to the bottom again. But filling in as much as I can up here before I go south. Ooh, I forgot a piece there. Whoopsie. You can't see it because it's just off camera, but I'll have to fix that later. Or maybe I'll just freehand it. When I'm doing these stencil patterns, I will pick it up several times and, you know, just let my eye glance over it to see if I've, you know, skipped a spot. And I always do. I've always got to go back and put a spot in here, a spot in there. And even still, I come back to it later and go, oop, because I found one. I came back and found one this morning. Actually, I did this last night. And then just now I found another one. And I'm sure I'm going to find more. Because it's just, when you're doing a pattern this intricate, it's hard to tell. Because your eye fills in the blanks. Yeah, I like these bigger shapes better for sure. I don't like too big a shape because then I can't do a wet on dry. I prefer wet on dry. I just have not done my homework on dry. Sorry, wet on wet. I haven't done enough practice with that where I feel very comfortable with it, so I prefer wet on dry. When you get a really big area you got to fill in, wet on dry is just bleh. That's a very technical term. It means yucky. Yucky is also a technical term. At some point I am going to have to reposition. Oops, pay attention. I am going to have to reposition the book though because I'm going to run out of... Well, I'm just being a mess today, aren't I? Like now, this is like the last piece. I can't go any further south as it were because you're not going to be able to see what I'm doing. Alright, so I guess we'll just do the big ol' shift. There we go. Not so bad. Got a big puddle of water there, don't I? I might make it worse by trying to fix it. Sometimes it's best just to let it be. Say, well, it is what it be like. And sometimes I like to outline the shape and then fill it in. Like that. That's kind of fun. But then sometimes, like with these little stripes, it's really tough to do that. There's just not enough room to fill it all in. To outline it first, I should say, and then fill it all in. Trying to, I think what I end up doing is something, depending on how wide it is, I just kind of fill it in top to bottom. But if it's really narrow, I'm just gonna, like this one, oh my, too much fluid there and too much pigment, so we're gonna take some back. Let's try to outline this bad boy. See how we do. Yep, that worked pretty well. But now let's see if this one's going to lend itself to. See, so I stick real close to that top pencil line. And then I go down the side a little bit. And then just kind of drag it to try to fill it in. Yeah. Ish. Let's try it again. Practice. That pencil line's really faint, but we're just gonna, we know where it is roughly, so we're just gonna go with it, fake it. Yep. Not bad, not bad. And the thing about using a round brush like this one is if it's got a really good point on it, then you can get right into those corners like I just did. Now see here, I'm missing this corner here, so I'm gonna just pull it down ever so slightly to try to fill that in. Almost like a pencil would, or a pen, but I'm just barely touching that little tip and then dragging it and then kind of pulling the pressure back, way back, so I can get a tip again. Those are fun to paint. That shape, that's a fun shape. I like that shape. Because if you don't get it just right, who's to know? I mean, it's not a specific shape that we see in, you know, it's a man-made shape. Yeah. All right, let's mix up the pigments. So we pull the scarlet off the bottom. Oh, that was fun. Dark, but fun. Sorry though. A variety of values. Makes your eye naturally move around the piece. That's one approach. And see, I didn't outline this one. This one I'm just kind of dragging the puddle with me. That makes this little end piece a little harder. And now I'm going to have to get on my tippy toes because I didn't fill this in earlier when the paper was dry. Now I got to hover over my wet paint, which isn't always ideal, but it's just practice. Oopsie. Outline the lines. Okay. Oh, that's really juicy. Look at that. And we'll leave it. See how it dries down. Trying to get that little tip of the brush right in that little corner. Yeah, sloppy. That's the other thing too, is you find yourself getting a little sloppy joppy with it. It's it might be time to go take a break, go fold some laundry, whatever. Come back, give your hand a little rest. Sometimes your attention gets, I don't say weak, but your eyes just get tired, whatever, and sometimes your wrist physically gets tired. There we go. Beautiful. If you like brown. Oh, some pigment there got granulated. That's kind of cool. I do like to cover a bigger area with the Primatech colors just to kind of see how their granulation is going to show up. I find that fascinating. Also, I might do a glazing thing with this color. Glazing exercise. Where you just go over and over and over but it probably wouldn't be in this book because of what I mentioned earlier about it not being 100% cotton. Sometimes glazing will make the paper pill or roll up, start to break apart. Goodness, my window is making a howling noise. It mustn't be closed all the way. I'm getting a breeze. Hey. Let's see. Yeah, that got some granulation in it. That's nice. I like these teardrops. Oopsie, I just touched that paint. Didn't mean to. Oh well. It's that whole hovering, that's that old hovering thing I was talking about a minute ago. That you have to be careful what order you paint, or take breaks and let things dry. I'm not a big fan of hair dry, or using a hair dryer or a drying tool. I tend to like, because it tends to move the paint around, and I like to let the paint just do what it wants to do. But as I also mentioned, it's good to give your hand breaks too, especially if you're painting in an awkward position. And it's a little awkward in this one for me, so I may give myself a break here in a second. You'll never know, because I'm just gonna leave everything where it is and come right back to it. But well, that was sloppy. That's the other way you know if it's time for a break, is you get sloppy. Like, okay. Said it already, I'll say it again. I do not like these little ones. But it is what it is. That was a juicy brush right there. It had a lot of water in it. Sitting here thinking I wish I'd done it in the Quinn Gold. I love that color so much. I recently picked up a tube of azo gold in this is heavy body acrylic, but this is supposed to be the replacement for the quinacridone nickel azo gold that got retired. The quinacridone gold is still good, this one, but it's not nearly as good as the quinacridone nickel azo gold, which they stopped making that pigment a while back. car manufacturers apparently heavily influence availability of pigments, and pigment companies go off of what car manufacturers are requesting, and when the color kind of goes out of vogue, excuse me, they stop making the pigment, and that affects, it's funny how, you know, the auto industry affects artists, but it does. Because car paint is a much higher volume than artist paint. So when they retire a pigment, because there's just only so much, they just stop producing it for a while. It'll come back in fashion again. Because, you know, if the bell bottoms are not any indication, everything comes back around. Corduroy pants are back in vogue. I wore corduroy as a kid. But we find workarounds, don't we? And so the azo gold is supposed to be a workaround for the quinacridone nickel azo gold. Luckily, I still have plenty of the other. Not that that matters for what we're doing right now. Just talking. Because to have music on, you get in trouble with YouTube, so I have to keep it quiet. In silence, after a while, people get like, what? They want to hear something, I suppose. But is it me yammering on? I don't know. Okay. Trying to decide what's still on screen before I have to move the book. These are my favorites, these little swirly doos. These little whip-de-doo-dahs. I think it's because they're not symmetrical. And they just got a nice movement to them. But who knows? They just make my little watercolor heart happy. Who cares why, right? Oops, bumping the camera with my brush. Well, I hope you like brown, because this is definitely a brown mandala. Crap, sorry, I may have to move the book just because I'm getting in the... Well, I guess I'm really not letting you see what I'm doing here either, am I? Alright, I'll move it after this. Okay, let's go this way with it. Sure, that'll work. I think. Ooh. Drat. Sloppy. Yeah. Lovely. Ooh, that was a fun little curve. The brush just went flickering on around that edge like it was a car on rails. Of course, the rest of it's sloppy as heck, but that's not the point. There's a fun little brush movement there. Very satisfying. Holding brush back a little further than I was earlier, in part because I got wet paint here and I'm trying not to lay my hand down on the book, on the sketchbook. So my lines might not be as precise as I would like them, but that's just the way it is. Nice shade of dirt we got going on here. Ooh, definitely dirt there. Woo. Some of my circles aren't so circly. Keep managing to get really pigmented little sections right there, but I think the variety of tones makes it fun. Yeah. Sloppy. Sloppy and oh, you know what? We're gonna fake this one out here. Watch this. Ta-da! Fixed. Nobody will ever know except you and me. Just want to wait for it to dry, get the stencil out, line it up, draw it. I mean, come on, it's just stencil's a guideline anyway, right? Just to keep me honest with my spacing. Because I can paint pretty well, but freehand this kind of stuff, oof. I really have to draw stuff. I am not great at freehanding. And keeping it spaced properly, I should say. Excuse me. I tend to go like slant. If I have something without dots or lines or whatever, or some sort of grid to follow, I tend to slant up and to the right. Probably because I'm right-handed. I think that's a fairly common phenomenon, especially if you're just like a hobbyist. So, know your strengths, know your not strengths. Put stuff in place. I like these teardrops. Swoosh. That's what my brain says when I go around the corner like that. Like a water slide or something. Yeah, brown was an interesting choice of color here, but oh well. You don't know till you try. Who knows, you might accidentally like it, right? Yeah, let's see if I can get the circle better this time. Go slower. Nope. Still didn't make it. Still my least favorite shapes. But it's going to be a minute here and I'm going to have to move this book again. Excuse me. Got a frog in my throat. This paint's a little challenging because you go to like mix it all up and then you get a whole bunch of it on your brush, which you don't want. But you also don't want to pull off the top because then all you're getting is the warmer side of the pigment and not the other bits, which makes it granulating goodness. So that's fun. It's fine, but it's just something to be aware of. Trying to find that happy balance. Aren't we all? Yeah, fun. I'm not sure I would have picked brown going into it necessarily. I thought, like I said, this was going to be more scarlet, more of a browny red rather than a reddy brown. Did that make sense? Yeah, I think it did. Excuse me. I thought it was going to be more of a a browny red than a reddy brown. Phew, stop trying to say it. Give it up. But now that we're here, I like it. Make sure I don't put my hand in paint and don't block the view, which both are challenges at this point when I'm working at this close of an angle. But I think that this is helpful to see. Helpful, more enjoyable. Insert adjective here. When the camera's close and you can see the brush up close and personal. I could tell right now I had too much in that one. And then, of course, the debate comes, do I go back and some of these, like this one that's like light on one half, do I go back and fix it? And I think the answer is no. I think I just leave it. It is what it is, man. But I reserve the right to change my mind later. And maybe I come back and outline with a black pen. Maybe I don't. I don't know. Why am I singing? I don't know. Ooh, it's dark. Oops, I'm almost out of frame, aren't I? Kind of am out of frame. Alright, let me finish this and I'll move back up. Sorry. How very inconsiderate. I try to remember to look up now and again and see, make sure my brush is in the shot. What I'm working on is in the view. I don't always remember, unfortunately. Oops, bumped the camera. Naughty, naughty. I think I hear my dinner boiling. My soup. Okay, got a few more we can do and then we're going to have to move the book. Kind of trying to let it dry a little bit and also not get in the way of the camera. No point you watching me if you can't see what I'm doing. No, no, I deleted it too much, but okay. Can't get there from here. Ooh, lots of pigment. Yeah, it's time to move the book, I think. Oh, blank. Just hit the camera. Okay, I was going to kind of lift it up so you could see some of the granulation that's happening there. Kind of cool. Okay. Now, let's see if we can move. Let's just do that part, I guess. Yep. And jump down here where it's not so. Let's see where I'm least likely to make a mess, and then I go outside the line right there. Well, that's the way it goes. Sure, as you start getting cocky there, you done messed up. I think some of the really cool granulation though comes from that medium amount of pigment, that, you know, Goldilocks spot of pigment, which is very elusive, I must say. But we try, people, we try. See, like, that's too much. So we'll take some away. Maybe. I've got the glass media mat over here. My bracelets are hitting it. It's driving me crazy. Ah! See if I can get that out of the way so I'm not hitting it so much. Yep, getting out of screenshot again. You do not need to adjust your sound. I'm just being quiet. I get into a zen place when I start painting patterns. With the occasional throat clearing, it might just be quiet. Sorry about the throat clearing part. I try not to do it on camera, but once while it just can't be helped. Must clear the baffles. Okay, this is a very awkward position. I'll go a tad slower. See if I can pull it this way. I like pulling rather than pushing. Generally speaking, it's a more comfortable motion for my hand to do. I think most people's hand, honestly. Yeah, I think you have more control pulling than pushing. Or it could be an illusion. Isn't all control an illusion? Oh, let's not go there. I was traveling recently and I took my watercolor supplies with my GoPro, and I had the crazy thought that I would film while I was gone. No. I did not pick up my pad or paintbrush once, which is kind of sad in a way, and yet, you know, I love traveling, so I'm not sad. We were gone like 3 weeks. It was a long trip. It was a big driving trip, sorry. I got to see a lot of friends and family, and it's nice. My mother used to say, it's good to leave and it's good to come home. She's absolutely right. One thing I do miss when I travel is my bed. On this trip, we took our pillows because we drove a good section of it. Excuse me. But, man, there's nothing quite replaces your bed, does it? Your back tells you, too. It goes, yeah, not happy. But you get up and get a warm shower and move on with your day, and you're all right. Coming along nicely. Yep, I'm pulling this direction, but it feels like I'm pushing it in a way. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's just maybe it's the angle. It feels awkward. I have to move the book here again in a second because we're getting off camera. Okay, last reposition, and we're on the home stretch with this pattern. Excuse me once again. I'll try not to do it anymore, I promise. Whew. These big petals are my favorite. And these guys too, I like those. My least favorite are the arches, but I said I wasn't gonna. Here, I'm gonna take it back. It's the time of year, which for me is like more than half the year. Something blooms in the spring, something blooms in the fall, something different blooms in the summer. Wah. My ambulance will be here in a minute. When I was younger, I used to have to just, oh man, I was on all kinds of stuff trying to keep myself functioning. Because my head would just, my throat, my chest would just turn into this goo farm. I lose my voice, and that still happens now and again now, but not like it was when I was younger, man. But no matter where you live, there's going to be some drawbacks But when I moved to Central Florida, I'll tell you, my sinuses never got over it. Okay, on the home stretch. I'm liking it. I like the off-centeredness of it. Is that a word? Centeredness? Well, if it isn't, I just made it a word. Off-register. Maybe that's the right word. Oh yeah, this is a fun color because it gives you so much range. I mean, you can get some really light colors over there, and then you can get some really deep colors and warm and cool. So if you wanted to do like a monochromatic piece, this particular pigment, without doing anything more than just adding water, you can really get that from one tube. I think that's what makes the Primatech, the granulating. I also have some new granulating ones I want to try soon too. I just got these from Kiritake, and these are Aurora red, pink, orange, blue, and violet. That's going to probably be the next thing I do. I think, I don't know, I haven't decided, but they're supposed to be a super granulating formula. I'm curious to see how those swatch out. Probably add those to my swatch book. My other sketchbook where I have a bunch of swatches in it. And then I'm excited to try my Prussian green. I love Prussian blue. It's perhaps one of my favorite blues. So I'm wondering what Prussian green's gonna feel like. All right, let's back the camera up a little bit and get a global shot here. And yeah, wow, that turned out good. That turned out great. So pull out your paints. This one's Hematite Burnt Scarlet Genuine, and a stencil, and have a little play. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you again soon. Bye.